The Charlotte Ledger Podcast is a member of the Queen City Podcast Network.
This episode of the Charlotte Ledger Podcast is presented by Childcare Search. Does your search for childcare have you stressed out? There's a lot to consider, like quality, price, location, schedule, and more. At Childcare Search, a service of Childcare Resources, Inc., our knowledgeable navigators can help you find licensed care that fits your family's needs. Visit www.findchildcarenc.org or call 1-888-600-1685 for free personalized guidance. Hey, it's Tony Mecia with the Charlotte Ledger, and you're listening to the Charlotte Ledger Podcast. You can find out more about the Charlotte Ledger at thecharlotteledger.com. Today's podcast is a recording of a conversation I had in front of an audience at the Sharon at SouthPark with Amy Burkett, the general manager of PBS Charlotte. PBS and public media in general have been in the news recently because of the zeroing out of federal funding for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which has led to cuts at NPR and PBS stations. Amy and I talk about how PBS Charlotte is adapting to that challenge, the differences between commercial and public media, the kinds of shows PBS excels at, and the kinds that it does not excel at. And we also talk about the connection between local media and the communities they serve. Amy is a former television reporter and anchor who was at a PBS station outside Philadelphia for 14 years before coming to WTVI PBS Charlotte in 2013. She also has her own leadership training and executive coaching business, so we also talked a little bit about leadership and how to be a good leader. I hope you enjoy the conversation, which was recorded on January 5th, 2026 at the Sharon at SouthPark. I'm here today with Amy Burkett. She is the general manager of PBS Charlotte. We're going to have a conversation about PBS and public media and some of the things that it's doing locally. And of course, I'm sure people love some of the national shows as well. So we'll get into all that with Amy. Amy, thanks for joining me today at the Sharon.
Hey, I love coming to visit you guys, and I'm grateful, Tony, that you would invite us. So thanks for letting us come.
Well, great. I'm looking forward to our conversation. And I know we've got a lot to talk about, and there are a lot of things going on right now with PBS, and it's been in the news a lot lately, funding and things like that. But you've got a television station. You put out a lot of great material. Can you tell me a little bit about how you wound up here in Charlotte, working with PBS Charlotte?
Sure. I am about to hit my 13th anniversary, lucky 13, coming up in May. And so I'm originally from Ohio, a graduate of Bowling Green State University in Northwest Ohio. I spent 10 years in commercial television after I graduated from Bowling Green State University. And then I made the best decision of my life, and I left commercial television and I went to public television. And I worked at the PBS station outside Philadelphia, Pennsylvania for 14 years. Started out as the head of production, worked my way up to executive vice president, but I had this crazy dream that I wanted to lead a television station. Not just any, but a public television station. So how many of you have been here more than 13 years? So you might be familiar with the fact that back in 2012, your local PBS station, PBS Charlotte, almost went out of business. Does that sound familiar? The license used to be held by Mecklenburg County, and Mecklenburg County decided it didn't want to be in the public television business anymore. Things had been fading after the 2008, 2009 challenging economic times. And so they were getting out of the business. When Central Piedmont Community College said, not in our town, the previous president, Dr. Tony Mecia, said he loved public television and that a vibrant community like Charlotte needed its own public television station, and he saved the license. Then the community college, which is an amazing organization, took over the TV station and lost more money than it ever lost before, because it runs a great community college, but it didn't know how to run a public television station, and it lost $1.3 million. And it was looking for a new head, and I was that crazy girl dreaming of an opportunity to be a part of a community and do something special for the community. And I came, and thanks to this amazing community, we paid that debt back. We've got a little surplus, which is helping us navigate the challenges of the loss of federal funding that happened back in July.
Well, there's a lot to unpack in there, but before we get into some of that, I wanted to ask you, what was it like going from commercial television into public television? What was the difference there?
So I no longer fought to get hurricane coverage. I was crazy, and people fought to cover a plane crash, hurricane coverage, all the natural disasters and awful situations that is really part of commercial television. I didn't have to do anymore. I got to tell stories that mattered. I led a production team, created documentaries, loved telling long-form stories about communities. And so it was the best decision I ever made in journalism.
So you came to Charlotte in 2013, WTVI, PBS Charlotte. What was it like then? You mentioned some of this. It was in a period of transition, it sounded like. But what was it like then in 2013 versus what it's like today?
Well, we've made a lot of progress thanks to an amazing community. When we got here, I had 0 ratings, 0 revenue, no local productions to speak of. The station had never won an award. And we had some rebuilding opportunities, but there was nowhere to go but up. And so we created a process that we called service to success. The more we served this community, we believed the more successful we would be. We created more local content, started telling local documentaries, and the community started supporting us. Since then, it's been straight up.
Well, I know that a lot of people are probably familiar with a lot of the national programs that PBS does. I mean, I know I grew up watching Sesame Street and Mr. Rogers and The Electric Company. And then, of course, as I got older, Ken Burns and Civil War series and baseball and so many great national productions. What's it like, though, at the local level? What is that like? What's the role for a local PBS station?
So the role is to be all about the community. And in this market, we're what's called a triple overlap market. There are 3 different PBS stations that people can watch. One is based in the Chapel Hill area, connected with the University of North Carolina. And last I saw, it gets $10 million in state revenue. FCE TV, based in Columbia, South Carolina, last I saw got $7.3 million in South Carolina state tax revenue. Any idea how much your local PBS Charlotte gets in state tax revenue? Zippity-doo-dah, nothing in state revenue. But again, you won't see the local content. We have a small but mighty local production team that we're honored. We've won 6 Emmys in the time that I've been here, and we are nominated for 9 new Emmys this year. So on Valentine's Day, we'll find out if you won any more.
Well, that's great. Do you want chance to plug some of those programs and some of the things you've been working on?
We would love to. So Carolina Impact is our signature series. It's Tuesday nights at 8 o'clock, all about the issues, people, and places that impact our region, and it's longer form. If you watch commercial television, and it certainly has its role to keep you up to date on where the latest murder is, or accidents, or what kind of bad, severe weather we may or may not get, it's a great option. But if you want to go in depth and learn, PBS Charlotte and Carolina Impact Tuesday nights at 8 is a great option. Tuesday nights at 8:30. How many of you love history? History lovers? Absolutely. Trail of History is our 8:30 program every Tuesday. Friday nights at 8 o'clock, we have our political program with former governor of North Carolina, Pat McCrory. It's called Unspun. Then we have on Saturdays at noon, we have a brand new cooking show that just started this year called Dapper Dad's Kitchen. So those are the 4 local weekly shows. Plus, again, we do documentaries and specials. Any Antiques Roadshow fans out there? Oh, you love Antiques Roadshow. Do you have those treasures hiding in your closet? It could be worth a lot. Well, we have our own version of Antiques Roadshow, and it's called Carolina Collectibles. That happens every October, where people bring their treasures. Last year, we saw some Norman Rockwell sketches that were worth $300,000. So you never know what's in your attic.
So what's it like? I mean, those are some great programs. What's it like nowadays? I'm guessing when you started in television, things were a lot different. You had just a handful of stations, and maybe there was a couple. There were obviously national news, national programming. Maybe cable was just starting, to come online. But what is it like nowadays? Because you have YouTube, you have TikTok. Anybody can be a media creator now. How has that affected what you all do?
I think it makes us even more relevant and important because folks who really want to learn, our motto is to channel your curiosity with PBS Charlotte. And I think You guys are like that. You stay young and fresh because you're always learning. You're always reading a new book. You're always learning something new. And that's when you know you can trust what you see on PBS Charlotte. And you can't always trust everything you see online.
Yeah, that's true. That's certainly very true. So what has it been like lately? Because for a long time, PBS stations and national PBS and National Public Radio and local radio stations received money that came originally from the federal government through the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. It's been in the news. It's no secret that last year those funds were cut. What has that meant for your station?
So it meant a lot of gray hair and some extra pounds for me. It was hard because it happened overnight. I've been in public media long enough that I was around 1999. I saw the early days of Newt Gingrich, who tried to zero out public television. It happened many, many times, and attempts, but it didn't happen. But this time it felt different, and this time it felt real, and in my heart, I knew it was going to happen. We lost overnight $1.2 million. Our PBS dues, we have to pay for the rights to air all of your favorite national shows, and that bill happened to be $1.2 million. And so that was money in and out. Your local station, we have about a $4 million cash budget. We have 14 full-time employees, but we can do some pretty good things with 14 employees. It was a hard fall. But again, I can't say enough about this extraordinary community. The community stepped up. We had over 2,000 new donors who came out. Last number, and we don't have the end of year numbers in yet because I just opened the mailbox and it was the biggest stack of support that I've ever seen in my soon-to-be 13 years here in Charlotte. So couldn't be more grateful for the community. We were around 850,000 before I left for the holidays toward that 1.2 million loss. So I believe we're going to make it. I believe the community's going to step up because they believe back to that service to success mission that we talked about. We've been serving this community consistently. Plus we have education and outreach that you don't see on television. We've got one education coordinator who spends 40 hours a week in CMS schools helping with early learning literacy. We teach preschoolers how to code. And so that Creative Coders program and our early literacy programs are really important to those who need help getting off to a good start.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a $1.2 million hole in your budget is a big hole to fill. It's nice to hear that the community has stepped up. And I don't mean to be Pollyanna-ish about it, but are there any upsides to that? Has it forced you to focus your message or double down on certain things? Do you see any silver linings?
The silver lining is beautiful people like you who watch and care, and the average donation is still $10 a month. And so, but we have over 17,000 folks who do that, and I'm hoping we can hit 20,000 and be able to continue to serve. We haven't eliminated any shows. We haven't done any layoffs. A few people have left because they got scared and they voluntarily left, and I have not filled those positions because it wouldn't be fiscally responsible of me to do so. So everyone at the station wears a lot of different hats. Chief cook and bottle washer. I pick up trash and wash the dishes some days too, but it's great that everybody cares. That's 14 committed, mostly journalists, storytellers who want to serve the community because you guys deserve the very best we can give you, and that's what we try our best to do.
What kind of feedback have you gotten from the community since these cuts?
That they don't want it to happen. They don't want to lose their local public television station because you won't have those documentaries, local documentaries. You won't have Carolina Impact. You won't have our version of Antiques Roadshow if PBS Charlotte went away. And so I believe that that's why we've been doing so well with the fundraising, because that service, that commitment to service has echoed and the community has supported us, of which I cannot be thankful enough.
We'll be right back to the conversation. This episode of the Charlotte Ledger podcast is presented by Child Care Search, helping families navigate childcare with confidence. So going forward now, what's your vision for the next 5 years, 10 years? What's it going to look like?
Can we just look at 1 year?
All right, let's go 1 year. Or we could go 6 months if you want.
Strategic planning, all this research, and I love to study leadership, but you used to do 5-year strategic plans, and now they say 18 months. Because the key to any type of leadership these days is the pivot. You've got to analyze. I analyze the numbers. I look at our ratings data. And if things aren't working in 4 to 6 weeks, I pivot and change. And so, again, we will double down on serving our community. We're trying to create more education opportunities to help more kids that are in need throughout our area. That's important to us because we know it's important to have a vibrant community, that we let these kids get off to a good start from an education standpoint. And we just have to do more with less, but big companies are doing that too. So that's the next year, and then every 6 weeks we pivot and change our strategy of fundraising based on what's working and what's not.
Yeah, you mentioned the data and looking at data, making data-informed decisions. I know that's been kind of a trend. We hear that out of a lot of companies nowadays. Can you talk a little bit about how you use data and how that informs what you do?
Data-driven decisions. That's the answer to life these days, I think. And we've got to see, while there are lower numbers watching over-the-air broadcast, there are larger numbers streaming. Do we have any Passport folks here? That's our on-demand streaming member benefit. So when you're a member, even at $10 a month, you can get our on-demand streaming content and you can watch anything, anywhere. So we have to combine all the numbers. So data isn't as easy as you used to just get the Nielsen numbers, which told you who was watching over the air. Now we have to get the Nielsen numbers. We have to look at who's streaming on Passport. We have to look at who's streaming on YouTube. We're finally figuring out, this isn't a big number, but it's the first month of the year. We're finally making a little money. We hit $1,000 in the month of December because of YouTube ads on our YouTube channel. We have 15,000 subscribers to our YouTube channel, and it's the first month that we made $1,000. And so, whoop.
You're going to catch Mr. Beast at some point, right?
Well, we're not the Mr. Beast style, but progress is a good thing. And if I hadn't tracked that data, if we didn't know we were making nothing, and then we made $100, and then we made $500, and again, it's giving people content. We see history as the number one thing that people tune in for. So we do a lot of history on our YouTube channel and in our Carolina Impact. And in the documentaries that we do, because we want to give people what they want to watch, and we only know that by watching the data.
Yeah, it strikes me because obviously with the Charlotte Ledger, we're in media as well. And the amount of time you have to spend just trying to keep up with not just what's going on, not just what happened 6 months ago, but where things are going and changing formats and changing platforms. I mean, YouTube is one now. It's no secret. There's a lot of stuff on YouTube, but a lot of people get a lot of information from YouTube. And some people might say, well, how many people are really sitting at their computer, watching for 20 minutes? But there are a lot of people who are seeing all kinds of things on YouTube. So if you want to be relevant, feel like it's somewhere you've got to be, right?
It's the most important thing. I just read a report this morning that says by the end of this year, more people will be watching video content on YouTube than in over the air. And it's very close. The numbers are very close right now. So it won't take long. And so we have to have a strategy to drive people to YouTube. And we're working on that through a little bit of digital marketing. We only have small amounts to invest, but we're targeting and watching, and we're seeing increasing.
Generally, though, how do you keep ahead of those technologies? Because I'm guessing, again, when you started in media, it was very, very different, right?
Yeah, there was no YouTube at the time. I date myself. I think I'm older than Tony, but there was no social media. I was in my third job before I got an email account. So I've seen a lot of change, but I live by the concept of change is the only constant in life. And I love change. It doesn't always feel good, and I'm a lifelong learner. I think that's one of the things that has drawn me to public television. It is about lifelong learning. So I read and consume a lot of content. And then I dabble and make a million mistakes and then readjust and try again.
Just for the record, I got my first email account when I was at college. And so social media wasn't a thing until
10 years after college, maybe. So I didn't grow up on social media like probably most of the people in this room. But you have to learn it, right? I'm guessing.
Yeah, they were all on social media.
But yeah, I mean, it's amazing how quickly this has changed. And I mean, everybody here has to, you have to constantly keep learning and keep understanding. One day it's Instagram, the next day it's Snapchat, the next day it's TikTok, and all these social platforms that I'm sure some of you maybe are familiar with, or your children or grandchildren are familiar with. It's a lot, it's a lot to keep up with. But it's like you're saying, it's a theme of lifelong learning. That PBS is really all about.
It is. And I love the fact that PBS got its charter the year I was born. And Sesame Street went on the air when I was 2 years old. And my mama says she had me in front of it for the first episode. So for this little Uricksville, Ohio resident to grow up to get to lead a public television station, it's really an honor. Because I credit Sesame Street for my creativity. I mean, it totally unleashed a creative side in me that I don't think I ever would have had back when there were only 3 stations and PBS. If it weren't for Sesame Street and all the great things with Mr. Rogers that I learned.
Amy, I know another one of your passions is executive coaching and strategy. Could you talk a little bit about that and how that sort of informs what you're doing?
Yeah, so has anyone ever read a John Maxwell book? He's a New York Times best-selling author. He's written more leadership books than anyone on the face of the planet. And I found him early in my career, like 1999 early, because I wasn't a very good leader. And I went to a one-day seminar on how to deal with difficult people. And at the back of the room, they had some resources. And I picked up John Maxwell's 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, and I fell in love. And that's really the thing that made me pivot from being an on-air anchor and a reporter to wanting to go into leadership. And I've studied it, and I've earned my affiliation as a John Maxwell trainer, speaker, and coach back in 2012. I have my own side business as a leadership consultant, and it keeps me learning and growing. And they always say, do we have any teachers in the room, former teachers? How do you know something? You have to teach it to somebody else. And so that has helped me. I write a leadership blog every week. I teach at PBS stations all across the country. And I have to learn because you can't give what you don't know. So I've got to stay up on things. And I love sharing it with others because if I know something, I want to share it with somebody else. I don't want to keep it to myself.
Okay, well, maybe can you not keep to yourself some leadership tips? I know whole books have been written about this, but what do you see in your experience? What are the common challenges that people have, or do you have any quick tips on how people can be better leaders?
It's never about you. I always say we have a leadership crisis in the United States, and I say it's really a PP problem. There are 2 different types of leaders, in my opinion, and there's 4 different P's that we have to think about. One type of leader is focused on power and prestige, and another type of leader has a passion for people. And I try my best to be that second kind of leader, to have a passion for people and to be in it for service and to help people grow and to not put my thumb on people. I had a lot of really bad broadcast television leaders, and that was another reason, I wanted to learn and grow. I want to encourage people and help people grow their skills, but not make them feel diminished. And I'm back in the day where I've had pop cans thrown at me, told I didn't have it. They couldn't define what it was, but they knew I didn't have it. And but I pushed through anyhow, and I wanted to build people up, not tear people down. And so I think that's a really important reason to be in leadership.
Well, that's some good advice. If we can just get back really quickly to PBS and the PBS shows, what are some of the trends that you're seeing in the types of programming that people are wanting? I mean, I know you said obviously the history that does very well. I know you've got cooking, local civics, locally based, thoughtful, long form types of things that the PBS is known for. But do you see any emerging trends? Is there anything coming down the pipeline when you go to national conferences? What are they talking about as the next thing that we're going to be seeing?
The challenge is we haven't figured that out yet. All the new things over the last few years that we've tried have failed miserably.
Like what?
So
Let's talk about failure, because you can learn from failure, right?
yes, you can. I wrote a book on it, The Dirty F Word. Things we learn from our failures. So, oh my gosh, I'm trying hard to pull, and I can't tell you exactly, but we've tried some unscripted programming that's very popular, reality TV, but on a PBS higher level.
Not Love Island.
Not Love Island, but we've tried a little reality TV that hasn't worked. And so drama is the other thing that I'd like to mention. People love their dramas. On Masterpiece on PBS is what it's all about on Sunday nights. And so what are newer dramas that we can bring people to? But we don't want to abandon the past. We love period dramas. And so we want to do more of those. That goes back to data and finding out the things, as PBS nationally is going to have to eliminate some shows. One of the things they eliminated was American Experience because it did not have the eyeballs. And so that's what they're doing as funds have shrunk. We always tried to be all things to all people, but you can't afford to be all things to all people. So you got to watch the data, and you've got to give them more of what they're tuning in for. People say we need a younger audience. I say, on the younger audience. They're watching Love Island. They can watch Love Island all day long. I want you guys to tune in. I mean, you might like Love Island too, but
There's no judgment here.
No
Everybody's a Love
judgment.
Island
No judgment. But I want to give the audience who is more mature, more experienced, more interested in something that will expand their horizons, and that's the content that we're working to continue to give the viewers.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good point. I think you sort of have to know your lane a little bit now. Like, it maybe used to be that PBS was relatively a bigger dog in the room, if I can mix my metaphors on that.
When there were fewer dogs.
Right.
There
Yeah.
were fewer dogs, and that made us a bigger dog.
But now, I mean, if you're just out there trying to get ratings, you're just like everybody else, and it's hard to compete. How are you going to compete with a Netflix so you have to sort of be strategic and say, okay, well, rather than try to be all things to all people and try to get the most eyeballs as possible, we can build a really solid business, or we can serve a community better by saying, hey, here are a couple things or a handful of things that we do really well. Reality TV is not something we do well, so let somebody else do the reality TV, and you all kind of keep doing what there's an audience for and a committed audience for, right?
We do not have a TikTok account, just saying. But we have an Instagram account, and it's very popular. So knowing your audience, knowing the age, serving them with what they want to be served with, those are the things that we try our best to double down on. Smaller number of different types of content, higher volume of the content we know that the audience desires.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. All right. Well, thank you all very much, and thank you, Amy, for joining us.
Thank you so much. It was great seeing all of you.
That's it for today. To our listeners, thank you for listening. You can find out more about the Charlotte Ledger at thecharlotteledger.com. This episode of the Charlotte Ledger podcast was produced by Lindsay Banks. This episode of the Charlotte Ledger podcast was presented by Child Care Search, providing families with personalized guidance and free referrals for quality child care programs.
QueenCityPodcastNetwork.com.